Next Curve.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Next Curve Rethink podcast episode where we break down the latest tech and industry events and happenings into the insights that matter. I'm Leonard Lee, Executive Analyst at Next Curve. In this Next Curve Rethink episode, we will be recapping TM Forum's DTW Ignite 2025, which took place in Copenhagen, Denmark, about a couple of weeks ago, if my memory serves me well. And we'll be analyzing the state of telco revolution and transformation, which are terms I think Dean really, really loves. Of course,
as long as you avoid the D word, we're okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we'll avoid that to the best of our ability. But
it's going to be a very short episode. We have to avoid everything that Dean doesn't like.
Yeah, we might as well just end things right now.
We might just, like, I don't know. Can we talk about the weather?
Yeah.
It's very
or
nice
the galaxy.
Today, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, guys, come on, calm down. Yes, for the 5G era. Okay, I had to throw that in. And I'm joined by the notorious Dean Bubley, Master Analyst at there you go, Disruptive Analysis, and the illustrious Patrick Lopez, the Supreme Analyst at Core Analysis. Gentlemen, thank you so much for jumping on, and I'm looking forward to having this discussion with you. Everything good?
All good.
Yes, and happy 4th for whatever it's worth to you and the other side of the pond. Although I will attest that the British celebrate the 4th of July holiday for some reason, which I thought was really curious, Dean. So
there's a lot of Americans. It's just that we make sure we get the date right. It's 4/7, not 7/4.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before we get started, please remember to like, share, react, and comment on this episode. Also subscribe here on YouTube and on Buzzsprout to listen to us on your favorite podcast platform. Opinions and statements by my guests are their own and don't reflect mine or those of Next Curve. We're just trying to provide an open forum for discussion around all things tech and telco and digital disruption.
You got legalese? Like you got, like, do you have a council that actually goes through your episode?
Oh, come on, Patrick. I have to have some, I have to have some assurances, disclaimers, especially given some of the guests that I get on the show,
All right.
yourselves. So, you know how you guys are, right?
Yeah, it's always good to get some deniability. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to watch out for you, Patrick. I know what you're like. But hey, let's get into this. I wanted to, well, number one, Dean, remarkably, that was the first time we ever met in person.
Yeah, it was astonishing because I ended up right at the beginning of it, standing there and looking around because we were right at the back of the room watching the keynotes, and I was like, oh, that's Leonard. And it was also with Jeff who was standing there as well. Yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, we're sort of getting the critical density of sort of telecoms loudmouths in one place at one time.
Yeah, exactly.
Sort of just missing John Strand for the full quartet. And given it was Copenhagen, he probably wasn't far away either.
Yeah, that's right. And no, you were the first person that I bumped into of all people. And I mean, Lord knows we might see you at MWC one of these days, right?
Outside, lurking. I got very, very close last year, but I think actually going through the turnstiles is pretty unlikely.
Yeah. One of these days, Dean.
If they drop their mandatory app requirement, maybe, or maybe they smuggle me in through some back office VIP channel or something like that.
There you go. Hint. There's a hint right there. And Patrick, obviously, we never got to spend as much time as we should have, but I did observe you getting super technical with the guys at that Catalyst, the IRA Technologies booth, and it was good to see you in action. So, but what I want to do here is really quickly get both of your impressions on the key themes. What popped for you this year at DTW? And, Dean, I don't know if you tracked this event at all. So but I'm sure at the least you have a first impression of the event.
Yeah, because I was only there for day one. I had another event in Dublin the following day, so I was just sort of did a bit of a flying visit. But I thought it was generally pretty upbeat, and I thought the people there were a lot more positive about TM Forum than they had been for a few years. And there just seemed to be a lot more enthusiasm around the things they're doing on autonomous networks and the sort of ODA framework they've got. It just seems to be a little bit more here and now, whereas I look at some of the other network API stuff, particularly ones for exposure to external developers, and I'm starting to think actually that the TM Forum internal APIs within telcos is a prerequisite before all the external stuff makes sense. And so it felt much more sort of positive than the stuff going on. There was perhaps a little bit, as in everything, oversaturation of AI, but we sort of expect that at the moment. I'm running my own AI event next week, so I'm in no position to talk. But it was quite an eye opener. It's a nice venue as well, which helps.
Yeah, a bit of a greenhouse though. But Patrick, what about you?
Yeah, look, TM Forum for the longest time has been for me like the OSS BSS event. And it's the event where progressively over the years there were talks and efforts towards having like networks that were more intelligent and more automated. And really, until now, you talk about agentic AI, until you talk about like self-optimizing network, and until you have basically automation through data, it was mostly stock in the sense that, when you wanted to automate something, it was like JavaScripting, and then like to get to where we are now, you had to reach like a level of maturity and a level of technical growth within the industry that wasn't there, right? So now that you have like more cloud native functions, now that you have more virtualization layers, now that you have like cloud tools such as Ansible, Chef, Puppet, etc. Now you actually can believably think of network getting more automated. So, I mean, for me, that's what I get from people actually being upbeat about the DTW event this year, is that like actually everything that DTW has been talking about for the last 10 years, it kind of feels that it's coming to fruition. So that's why people have a reason to actually be enthusiastic about the direction of the show and the industry.
Yeah. I thought this year it seemed a little bit more grounded. I didn't spend a lot of time in the sessions. I was roaming around the exhibition floor and also checking out the catalysts. Talking to a lot of the teams that put those Catalyst projects together. And I think there's some great learning going on. And it was good to see the progress of, I would say, discovery. I don't know what you gentlemen felt, but it still seems like we continue to be in discovery mode. Obviously, this agentic AI is this new thing that's been introduced over the course of the last six months, I would say. And now folks are graduating from the previous cycles of generative AI applications to now looking at what does agentic mean, right? So I thought it was interesting. I think there's still. We're still sort of in POC mode, though, is the feeling that I got. I don't know what you gentlemen thought.
I think on agentic, yes, everyone still is. But then I've got that at a bunch of events that I've been to recently. I think one of the things I took away from TM Forum is that fairly uniquely amongst these industry associations, they are agnostic on fixed versus mobile networks. Whereas obviously GSMA or Broadband Forum are one or the other. And I think the interesting thing there is you walk around and there were people talking about, smart home and fixed broadband services. And there were other people talking about sort of mobile and whether it was monetizing 5G and all the usual stuff there. But it seemed to be a lot less driven by, trying to monetize our side at the opposite, at the expense of the other side, which I think is quite valuable. But also without sort of overdoing the convergence rhetoric either. It was just saying, look, there's a bunch of stuff out there. Well, I don't know if I saw anyone talk about satellite, but that you can sort of imagine it fitting into the same. Actually, no, I did speak to someone on satellite.
There were some satellite things.
Yeah. And so it was one of those events which was fairly agnostic in terms of the underlying network technology, which was nice. But on agentic, no, I mean, I see that cropping up at a bunch of events and discussions I have with briefings with vendors. I was at a subsea fiber event a week or so earlier, and there were people talking about here's a agentic AI use case for fiber operations, for subsea operations. And so again, it was proof of concept, but it was there's big things that are going in the right direction. The other thing is I had a couple of discussions about what is needed to make all that real. For example, in that scenario, how do you look after the security and identity of agents? So if you've got your AI talking to another AI, you're going to have a security architecture around that. And people are already having those conversations.
Patrick, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think, the agentic AI, as you say, is pretty much in proof of concept, which is a good thing because when I think of automation and when I think of agents and when I think of autonomous networks, I get scared. Not by Telnet or the robots taking over. I just get scared because, for me, you automate well something that you operate well. And you operate well something that you've been operating for a long time. And the thing is, the networks are changing much faster than they have had in the last 20 years. So we haven't had that much time to actually operate well a number of the functions that are being dropped into the networks. And trying to automate something that for which you haven't observed all the limits and which you haven't identified all aberrant behavior is difficult, or it can lead to catastrophic results. So I think, agentic AI is a good buzzword for everyone to have little routines that are semi-autonomous. I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot more human augmentation, let's say, of tasks rather than autonomous or true autonomous networks.
This year it felt like there was a lot of focus on autonomous, the network aspect of it, right? So the lower level stuff. Network orchestration management versus the BSS stuff. Previous years, there was a lot of talk about BSS and, the tiers above it, right? Whether you want to call it, the CRM bits. But what were your impressions there? I honestly didn't see, I saw a lot of the, anyways, go ahead, please. One of you.
I think there's fundamentally there's an awareness that if you want to sell more stuff to end users, you have to do product development. And as a telco, product development primarily involves doing something with a network, even if it's building applications on top of it. And so unless you've got new stuff to sell, there's a limit to what you can do with BSS beyond, improving your customer service is important, maybe automating some of it. But fundamentally, revenue comes from not really fiddling around with bundles and packages. It comes from having new stuff to sell, which means doing stuff to the network.
Yeah, and basically that's research. That's pure innovation, right? And not every network operator is well equipped to do it. Although the cost of doing it is going down, because now if you have like a cloud native network, you can try things more easily, and you can do that in an environment that is protected before you roll out. So that's good. But that's true. If you look at the focus of network operators, at least this year, between monetizing and cost reduction. I mean, the opportunity for monetization in 5G are still, fixed wireless access, and that's probably the most successful, let's say, new service that has emerged from 5G. But besides that, there's not a lot of new services or new products that are emerging. So, but on the other hand, cost reduction remains for everyone a big effort, and the biggest cost for network operators, on one hand it's capex, and it's it's the radios. That's the biggest lump, and then besides that it's people. It's having a lot of people that are doing a lot of valuable work. But if you look at cloud native companies, it takes a lot less people to do some of the work that they're doing.
Yeah, I think there's also yes, the part of the capex is in the RAN, part of it is in digging up the road for fiber as well, and OLTs and ONTs on the fixed side. But I think actually one of the interesting things I'm seeing is on the actually primarily on the fixed side, but mobile's talking about it as well, is things like network as a service. And a move there towards whether it's for enterprise and I also see beneath the surface more interest in sort of wholesale and sort of open access models. There's a bit more there about multi-tenancy, where the customer is another service provider,
right? Yeah,
some sort, rather than necessarily the end customer. And I think that's been a missing part of the puzzle in a lot of areas for a long time. Yeah, you got individual conferences on MVNOs and MVNEs and stuff like that. But I think that there's a bit of a disconnect sometimes in the marketplace, where everyone assumes that the customer must always be, or the consumer of things like APIs and capabilities must always be either a long tail app developer or maybe an enterprise developer. Whereas in fact, the two audiences that I think are top of the list are the internal product and software development teams within the operator itself, and then other operators. Yeah, almost like what in finance you call market counterparties. And I think that TM Forum is slightly better positioned to cater to those audiences than, say, GSMA is at the moment.
Interesting insight. Yeah. And I think also a certain class of developers, though. I think maybe the estimation of how many, what the population of developers will be for network APIs, I think maybe much larger than what it'll actually be. I think at the lower levels of, let's call it the solution tier, whatever it is that you're trying to ultimately a developer at the highest order is going to try to go to market with, you're going to have a lot more developers at that level than down at the network API level, right? That's not to say that there isn't a lot of value that can be had at that network API level, but I think that's that transition in thinking that still hasn't happened yet, right? And so you're making a good point, Dean. A good observation as well. I mean, you have any thoughts on that, Patrick?
Well,
network APIs, our favorite topic of the.
Yeah, it's a trend that I've been following for a while. I don't know, like the real difficulty with network API is just finding really what's valuable for third parties in an operator network.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And today, from what I see, and I don't have an exhaustive view of the market space, but it looks like a lot of it is geared towards fraud avoidance, user identity, a little bit of location services, and if the network APIs and the whole API gateway movement and camera end up creating a marketplace for that, that's good. It's also probably a little disappointing. You would think that going forward, hopefully, some of the capacity of the network operator can be better sold through APIs. We've been talking about edge networks for a long time, right? But they're starting little by little to develop. There are some practical applications that could be used there. And something that Dean just said, there's probably also more use for network APIs between networks that could be better looked at. What I'm thinking about, there's no reason when network are overlapping over geography that you wouldn't get some level of best user experience API that would allow either carrier aggregation or even roaming from one network to the other transparently to the user to give the best signal, and there might be people are ready to pay a premium for that, and that would be operator to operator discovering basically what's the best connectivity option for a given user in a given location. So I think there are opportunities there, but I think that as often in telecom, we're looking first at the technology before looking at the possible users to divine what kind of use case we're going to roll out.
Yeah, it's because technology is so fun, right, Patrick?
For sure.
And so is imagining things. But last question. I was wondering, what do you think that the operators need to focus on coming out of TM Forum DTW Ignite 2025? What should they take away, and where do you think we'll land next year? Maybe Patrick, why don't you kick us off here?
All right. Well, there's progress in automation. There is now some fairly complex use case that can be not only demonstrated, but actually rolled out if you have the right DNA or if you have the right technological base. And the right technological base is pretty much the same for every cloud native application. I talk a lot about Open RAN. AI RAN is the same. At the end of the day, you need fiber. You need fiber all the way to the tower. You need a virtualization layer on top of your hardware. You need hardware that is as indifferentiated as possible. And you need an orchestration capability that's able to distribute workloads geographically within your network to be able basically to flex with the demand. If you have that, then on top of that, doing a level of automations that allow you to either optimize or provide better service to specific kind of users. We spoke about slicing for longest time, right? And none of the slicing really was possible unless and until you had that base that I just talked about. And now you start to see operators that have that. I forgot 5G standalone, obviously. That's part of it as well. You have to have like a toolkit to do those sophisticated use cases that we mentioned. And now, basically, having an algorithmic capabilities that allows you to identify patterns and to basically react to it as close to real time as possible, or even anticipate it to be able to either optimize your network or adjust the network to the demand, or create connectivity services that are adapted to specific use case or specific users. All of that, actually, you can see it, right? I mean, we're like the promise of 5G from 7 years ago. It's kind of coming of age right now.
Yeah, takes time, apparently. Yeah. What about you, Dean?
I would like to see both operators and also the vendor community thinking more about the outside world and the impact that has on the various of the systems that they're deploying. Give a couple of examples of that. There was a small booth that I saw of one vendor there, which had a very niche product, but they essentially looked at the impact of things like power outages on the network. And they had a feed into an adjacent system from power companies that said that they were having issues with electricity supply in particular areas. Because, you can provide slicing, quality of service, networks as a service as much as you like. But if there's a grid failure on the electricity side in a particular area, then your number of nines you've got is irrelevant because there's no power supply unless you've got battery backup. Another thing that relates to that is what else is going on in the real world in terms of the way we as consumers or businesses are using AI. Or software generally, or devices. Where are we using, when I talk about things like, well, this is all very great for wireless, but does it work indoors, or does it work on a hot day or when it's snowing? But also, we have to think about, we're all using AI tools these days, ever more. Probably, we're talking about agentic here. Probably all three of us use various tools to generate, content or summarize discussions we've had. I sort of made a sort of hypothetical post yesterday saying, well, what happens when we all have our own agents negotiating our prices and service plans, for example? And so does the sort of customer service function of an operator sometimes become at some point become an agent service, where essentially, hi, this is ChatGPT calling on behalf of Dean. I'd like to renegotiate the contract and the plan he's got, and I've had 37 million conversations like this in the last month, and I reckon you're going to give me a 17% discount. So let's cut to the chase and sign on the dotted line. And so so by the time we talk about some of these things coming to fruition, 2030, it's not just B2B and B2C, it's going to be B2AI. And so, again, this is like an external thing. You can add in a lot of regulatory trends that are happening, geopolitical, I'd say the energy side of it, climate change, you have a whole list. And at the moment, sometimes I'm still getting the impression that a lot of this community is very internally focused on, we want to make sure our cloud native functions work. We've got our vision standards set together, but actually the world isn't static. And I think that we don't necessarily always look to, what is the future going to look like by the time we have all this wonderful software to enable us to interact with it.
Yeah, no, those are good points. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you both jumping on to share your thoughts on DTW Ignite. Jeez, I go to so many conferences as you do that I forget the name of some of these conferences. So a lot of respect for the folks at TM Forum. You guys put on a great program. Okay. Sorry about messing it up here, but DTW Ignite, it was a great conference, and it was great meeting both of you there. And so why don't you both take a brief moment to tell the Next Curve audience how to get in touch with you, and maybe briefly some of the great work that you guys are doing.
Go ahead, Dan.
Patrick, okay. Okay. Easiest way to reach me is usually on LinkedIn, where I've got a regular stream of posts and also a newsletter. And I engage with vendors, operators, regulators, investors, and others on advising on what's next in telecoms, and also related areas of policy and cloud and so on, and do various speaking engagements and written reports and internal workshops and studies. So please connect with me on LinkedIn.
Very good. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Send me an email, patrick.lopez@coreanalysis.ca. I'll just take the opportunity to do a little shout outs. I was very fortunate to be invited to be a member of the board of director of an organization called Sengen, the Center for Next Generation Network in Canada. I'm in Canada, and Sengen is basically funded by the federal government to help small and medium enterprise in Canada to have access and to discover basically how networks are evolving and how to use basically next generation networks for new use cases. So I just want to take the opportunity to put a little spotlight there, because it's good in our capabilities to be able to kind of give back to the community and to spend a little bit of time to try to in my case, give back to Canada. So since it was Canada Day, which is July 1st, 1/7, not 7/1, Dean, but earlier this week, I wanted to take the opportunity to flag that up. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me here on this podcast. And hope you have a great weekend. To our audience, please subscribe to our podcast, which will be featured on the Next Curve YouTube channel. Check out the audio version on Buzzsprout, or find us on your favorite podcast platform. Also, subscribe to the Next Curve research portal at www.next-curve.com for the tech and industry insights that matter. Gentlemen, have a great weekend. And thank you so much for jumping on and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Dean. See you soon, guys.
Happy 4th.